Just 8 months ago, U.S. and Israeli relations were said to be at their lowest point in decades. In early March, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came before Congress in an unprecedented and ultimately unsuccessful attempt to kill the nuclear deal with Iran. Then, several weeks later, Netanyahu was re-elected after warning of a high turnout of Arab voters and vowing to prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state. That prompted criticism from the Obama administration and even talk for the first time of the U.S. no longer blocking UN measures critical of Israeli settlements and the occupation. But those expecting a confrontation when Netanyahu returned to Washington this week were mistaken. Instead, President Obama and Netanyahu held what all sides agreed to be cordial talks on increasing U.S. military aid to Israel. Netanyahu reportedly requested a record $5 billion in annual U.S. military aid, an increase over the $3 billion the U.S. already provides. If Obama had any concerns about Israel's occupation of Palestinian land and its continued illegal settlement activity, he did not share them publicly. Addressing the Jewish Federation of North America, Netanyahu praised his talks with Obama.
I had a very good meeting with President Obama at the White House, and I deeply appreciate his commitment to bolster Israel's security at the time when the Middle East is becoming more dangerous than ever. And I also want to say that we are sharing so many things. The United States is giving indispensable help to Israel, indispensable. But Israel is returning that assistance almost on a daily basis in intelligence and in many other things.
Despite the high praise, there are signs the tension still remains. Ahead of Netanyahu's visit, Israel moved to green-light the expansion of Israeli settlements in the West Bank with 2,200 new housing units. The move recalled a similar act by Netanyahu just before a visit to Israel by Vice President Joe Biden in 2010. A few days before the Israeli Prime Minister arrived in Washington, he appointed Ron Baratz to become head of public diplomacy and media at the Prime Minister's office. In a Facebook post in March, Baratz described Obama as, quote, the modern face of anti-Semitism in Western and liberal countries. Last year, Baratz said Secretary of State John Kerry had the mental capacity of a 12-year-old.
While President Obama was publicly silent on the occupation during Netanyahu's visit, Hillary Clinton wrote an article for The Forward headlined, "How I Would Reaffirm Unbreakable Bond with Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu." Meanwhile, the Center for American Progress, a leading progressive group with close ties to both Clinton and Obama, held an event this week hosting Netanyahu in Washington. That decision reportedly prompted a revolt from some staffers, angered that a liberal group would give Netanyahu a platform. In his opening remarks at the event, Netanyahu told attendees he wanted to speak to a progressive audience.
I'd like to talk to a progressive audience about progressive values. I think that Israel is, at the very least, misunderstood, because I think that if you look at all the values and all the rights that you deem important. I'm talking about the rights of women or the rights of gays or the rights of minorities, the rights of Arabs, the rights of Jews, the rights of people. These are enshrined in an imperfect society. Israel is not perfect. I don't know any society that is. The one that is facing incredible odds with incredible successes. And it safeguards those values in a very, very troubled area.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking to the Center for American Progress. Netanyahu's appearance came just days after a new controversy over the group's alleged censoring of writers critical of Israel. Newly leaked emails from 2011 and 12 published by The Intercept show the center made key editorial decisions, including editing articles, silencing writers, and backing off criticism at the behest of influential groups who backed Israeli government policies. Center for American Progress representatives were not available to join us today on the show, and they sent us a statement instead saying, quote, CAP believes we need to engage with people we don't agree with. Tuesday's forum covered a broad range of issues, including the prospects for peace, West Bank settlements, the Prime Minister's past remarks, and settler violence. By having the Prime Minister with us, we sought to elevate the quality of the debate about U.S.-Israeli relations after several years of tension, they wrote. For more, we're joined by a guest who experienced the censorship firsthand, he says. Ali Gharib is with us, contributor to The Nation magazine, former staffer at the Center for American Progress. One of Ali Gharib's articles for the Center, he said, was censored after complaints that the Center president, Neera Tanden, a Clinton loyalist who served under President Obama, Ali Gharib was told firsthand not to write articles leading pro-Israel groups such as AIPAC. We welcome you to Democracy Now! Before we get into Netanyahu speaking before the Center, can you talk about these allegations you've made? You worked for the Center at that time that these leaked emails come from, that The Intercept got a hold of?
Yeah, I mean, the basic story was that we got attacked by a group of right-wing pro-Israel advocates over a period of several months, and instead of kind of standing behind our work, CAP's leadership turned around and went to the same groups that were attacking us, and in an attempt to curry favor with them, said, well, we'll tamp down these criticisms of Israel. And as you said—
How do you know they said that?
Sorry?
How do you know they said, we'll tamp down these?
Well, it was clear in the emails that were leaked that they had been going to groups like AIPAC and saying, we're working on this problem, and then you know, I sat in an editorial meeting where it was made absolutely clear that criticizing AIPAC was not on the menu, and less specifically criticizing Jewish groups that were advocating for Israel was something that we weren't supposed to do in the pages of the CAP products we were putting out.
And is it the case that there was a special editor who was designated to look at all the material that was being written about Israel?
Yeah, we had a minder who, you know, I was working at the Center's blog Think Progress, and we had a minder who would take all of our posts before publication to the executives upstairs whenever the subject was Israel, and also, in many cases, Iran. And then, you know, one of the posts that you were talking about, Amy, that got censored after publication had been a post that was about an Islamophobic film that was being shown at NYPD trainings, and we wrote an article pointing out that the people behind this film were a group of an evangelist Orthodox Jewish group that was involved in promoting West Bank settlements and had a long history of Islamophobia. And that was the post that, you know, it didn't go through the normal channels because it wasn't about Israel. It was just that the people who happened to be putting out the movie were Israelis. And that was the one that then elicited complaints from pro-Israel advocates and was cut down after publication to remove any references to Israel.
Well, I want to turn to one of the emails leaked to The Intercept. Writing in January 2012 to some of her employees, CAP President Neera Tanden said, quote, I just got off the phone with Ann Lewis, who continues to be adamant that a real problem is that our blog seems anti-Israel. Because, and I'm just reporting in, while it seemingly takes every opportunity to criticize Israel, it takes no opportunity to actually say Israel is doing the right thing. She said she went through even the last few weeks and saw this bias. Tanden went on to say that Ann Lewis, who is a close aide to Hillary Clinton, insisted that, quote, we're going to continue to have a problem until our blog seems like it's not anti-Israel. I tried to discuss Israel versus the Israeli government policies, but she was not really buying it. So could you talk about who Ann Lewis is and why the CAP leadership was concerned about her opinions of the CAP blog?
Well, Ann Lewis is sort of a Democratic apparatchik who, since that time, since 2011, 2012, and all this happened, has joined the Israel Project, which is a right-wing pro-Israel advocacy group that's headed up by a fellow named Josh Block, a former AIPAC spokesman, who also was the one who launched the attacks against us, calling us anti-Semites and trying to, you know, curtail our message on Israel. And I don't know what was going on in Neera Tanden's head, but I presume they met somewhere in Clinton land. They were both Clinton aides and are both considered Clinton loyalists, and that line of communication presumably
remained. When you say
remained
Clinton, you're talking about?
Bill and Hillary Clinton, I think. They both attended and worked for Hillary's campaign the first time around in 2008. And Ann Lewis was close to the Clintons when Bill was president as well.
We're going to break, and we come back. We're going to talk about Netanyahu coming to the Center for American Progress. Think Progress wrote 10 falsehoods that Netanyahu told during his appearance at CAP. Think Progress, you talk about it in the past as being the blog of the center, but it is separate now?
Yeah, I think they're staking out some editorial independence. I mean, that becomes clear with these sorts of posts that they're doing. You know, I can't speak to whether they have restraints now on their work, but they certainly did when I was there. Ali
Grieve is a contributor to The Nation, former national security reporter for Think Progress, a project of the Center for American Progress Action Fund. His most recent piece is headlined, "Dissent Breaks Out at the Center for American Progress over Netanyahu's Visit." We'll be back with him in a minute.